Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Iowans Supporting Israel third banquet. My name is Charles Schneider. I'm one of the co-chairs of Iowans Supporting Israel. And on behalf of our board of directors, you honor us here with your presence tonight, and we're happy that you all came. We're thankful to you for coming. At this time, what we'll do is open with a prayer. Leading us in prayer will be Jared Bernstein from the Jewish Federation of Greater Des Moines and Denise Bubeck, one of our board members.
Heavenly Father, we lift up the state of Israel into your loving care. We ask for your peace to cover the land and for your protection over every border and city. We pray for peace in Jerusalem. May all who love this city prosper. Bless the leaders of Israel with wisdom, courage, and guidance as they make decisions for this nation. May your favor be upon its people, bringing unity, prosperity, and safety. And for your hand of protection to be upon Israel in all circumstances. Let the people of Israel know the fullness of your love and grace. Thank you for calling Israel for a righteous purpose, and for your constant watch over them, and for allowing them to be a light to all the nations. Amen.
No time on the Jewish calendar is more closely associated with simcha, with joy, than the now concluded festival of our High Holy Day season. But there is no joy, there's only mourning, an incalculable mourning for the Jewish people, for our Israeli brothers and sisters, for Jews all over the world, for those beyond the Jewish community who love Israel and the Jewish people. To our Israeli brothers and sisters, we express the words of Tehillim, of Psalms, Imo Anochi B'tzara, we are with you in crisis. It is our crisis. We mourn our dead of unfathomable numbers, the young, the old, men, women, and children, who were murdered by barbaric terrorists and Israel's courageous soldiers who have fallen in defense of the state of Israel and its people, in defense of all of us, wherever we may be. All in the sanctification of God's name. Yehi Zikram Baruch. May our memory of them be for a blessing. We offer comfort to our mourners whose losses are incalculable, whose lives have been inalterably scarred. We pray for a refuah shalema, a refuah hanefesh, a refuah haguf, a full and speedy recovery for all the wounded in body and soul. We will not rest until the abducted are released and return to their loving families. We are grateful for the many beyond the Jewish community who have stood at Israel's side in its great moment of need. Dear God, be our partner as a Rofei Cholim, a healer of the stricken, a Menachem Avelim, a comforter of the mourners, a Matir Asurim, a liberator of the captives. Od lo abda tikvatenu, our hope is not lost. Liot am chovshi be'artzenu, we will be a free people in our land. Adonai oz le'amo yiten, God strengthen your people Israel. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. God, bless your people with shalom, with peace. Please join me in saying amen.
Now please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Please enjoy your meals. We'll come back up here in a little bit to kick off the program. The hammer I used earlier is from my Senate President days. I knew it would come in handy at events like this to get people's attention. Again, thank you all for being here. We really appreciate you coming. This is a very busy time of year and a very hyper-partisan time of year, just being 8 days out from an election. So on the one hand, we thought this might be a difficult time to try and get people to come. But on the other hand, we thought being a bipartisan nonprofit organization, this would be the best time to show a display of bipartisan support for our ally Israel. So we thank you all for coming. I'd like to take a minute to recognize some officials and dignitaries who have been able to come, and then we'll play a video message from some who were unable to be here. First of all, Governor Kim Reynolds is with us tonight. You'll hear from her in a little bit. And Representative Zach Nunn is with us tonight. And a couple of our statewide elected officials, Secretary of State Paul Pate and Attorney General Brenna Miller, excuse me. And Secretary of State Mike Naig and State Treasurer Robbie Smith did want to attend, but were unable to, so they send their regrets. We also have several state representatives here. Eddie Andrews, John Dunwell, Austin Harris, and David Young are all here, I believe. And we also have several county and city elected officials here. Would you all please raise your hands so that we can see you? And I also want to acknowledge our board of directors from Iowans Supporting Israel. Tom Henderson, Loretta Seaman, Jerry Huser, Mike Schreers, Bud Hockenberg, Prakash Kaparapu, Karen McKaylee, Denise Bubeck, Jim Ipersbach, and Tamara Harrison. Let's all give them a round of applause. And if I left anyone out, I apologize. I've been left out before too as an elected official, so I know how it feels if it makes you feel any better. And we also have a video message that we'd like to play from our state co-chairs, former Iowa Attorney General Tom Miller and Ambassador Branstad, who is tied up with the World Food Prize and couldn't be here tonight, and several other state representatives from our congressional delegation as well. So we'll go ahead and play that.
This is Terry Branstad, a former governor of Iowa, ambassador to China, and now president of the World Food Prize Foundation. I'm sorry that I can't be with you personally. I'm a strong supporter of Iowans in support of Israel, but I have another conflict tonight that makes it impossible for me to attend. I wanted to express my strong personal commitment to supporting Israel's success in this conflict against the terrorists that attacked on the 7th of October, and my hope that Israel can succeed in returning the rest of the hostages and restoring peace to the Middle East.
I'm Tom Miller, the former Attorney General of Iowa, a longtime Attorney General, 40 years as Attorney General. Didn't seem that long, but if you add it up, it's 40 years. And I had the privilege of serving longer as a state Attorney General than anybody in the history of the country. It's been a year now, this month, that we saw the enormous attack by Hamas on Israel. 1,200 plus that were killed, 200 plus that were taken captive, sexual abuse occurring. It was horrendous. We must not forget that, the people or the event or the lessons. And for me, what's really important is for us Americans to be united in terms of protecting the security of Israel. They've been a great ally. They deserve protection when attacked. And finally, I think the top priority has to be to return the hostages. What a horrible year they've experienced in this last year. It's very important that the hostages be brought home.
Welcome, Consul General, to the great state of Iowa. I know you and your predecessors have probably been here many times. We welcome you once again. And I want to say very much thank you to Iowans for Israel for your support of that great democracy. A friend of the United States, and we consider Israel very much our responsibility to make sure that friendship is maintained. Everything that is in Israel's interest in the Middle East is in America's interest. We must work together and do it in a way that just shows friendship and love for these two great democracies.
1 year ago, I woke up in the Middle East to devastating news. Israel was under attack. As the death toll of Americans and Israelis climbed, and news came in of our fellow citizens being taken hostage, It was truly unbearable. Look no further than Hamas using rape as a weapon of war to see the true brutality of the Iran-backed terrorists. I immediately did what the moment demanded. I went into Israel during their time of crisis to show unwavering support for our friend and ally. I heard from families in agony, not knowing whether their loved ones were dead or alive, purely at the mercy of Hamas. And I have done everything I can to work to bring their loved ones home. Since October 7th, I have journeyed back to Israel a total of 4 times. Whether in Washington, the Middle East, Iowa, or somewhere in between, I've been working to hold this White House to a true ironclad commitment to Israel and bring our hostages home. 1 year later, my heart still breaks as Israel continues to be under attack on all sides. We must cut off the backers of this terrorism in Tehran and put an end to this chaos and restore peace and prosperity in the Middle East. I stand with Israel, our greatest ally in the Middle East. May God bless our Jewish brothers and sisters.
Hi, this is Congressman Randy Feenstra. This month we observed the 1-year anniversary of the October 7th terror attacks in Israel. On that tragic day, the world watched in horror as Hamas terrorists murdered and kidnapped innocent Israelis. It was the worst attack in Jews since the Holocaust. Even 1 year later, Israel continues to face missile strikes and violence at the hands of Iran and its proxies, Hamas and Hezbollah. Groups like Iowans Supporting Israel are vital to strengthening our U.S.-Israel alliance. So thanks to all you for your support of Israel here in Iowa and around the country. Now and always, the United States stands with Israel and against terrorism and evil regimes.
Hi there, this is Congresswoman Ashley Hinson. I so wish that I could be with you there in person tonight. Just over a year ago, on October 7th, 2023, the world witnessed pure evil when Hamas ended the ceasefire that was in place and brutally attacked Israel, slaughtering both Israeli and American civilians in their homes. And they took others hostage in Gaza. We know for the families of those who are still held hostage by Hamas, every day is still October 7th. We must bring every hostage safely home, and we must eradicate Hamas. Let me be clear, Hamas is responsible for every civilian death in the region over the past year. They do not value human life. They are barbaric terrorists who intend to wipe Israel off the map. I will always stand strong in my support for Israel, for the Israeli people, and for the Jewish community. In Congress, I'm working to ensure that Israel has the tools needed to defend herself and condemn anti-Semitism both at home and abroad. We're also working to ensure every hostage is brought home safely. I will continue to be an advocate for a strong U.S.-Israel partnership, one that keeps the United States, Israel, and Iowa safe. Thank you so much for your efforts to build support for Israel here in Iowa and across the country. I hope you enjoy the banquet, and I'll hope to see you soon. It's an honor to serve Iowans in Congress.
This is Marionette Miller-Meigs, and as you gather tonight for your banquet, Iowans Supporting Israel, I just want to let you know that our support for Israel continues and is undaunted. We know that Israel has the right to defend itself, Israel has the right to exist, and we're going to continue to push for all the release of the hostages and that the Biden administration sends the munitions and armaments that we have already voted for so that Israel can continue to defend itself and eradicate Hamas. So I just want to let you know that I appreciate all that you're doing in support of the Israeli people, and we're going to continue to be there with you.
Hi, team. It's Congressman Zach Nunn from Iowa's 3rd Congressional District. Only 1 year ago, Hamas launched a brutal and unprovoked attack on our strongest ally, Israel. As an Air Force combat veteran, I know what it means to defend freedom, and I stood against this horrific attack of terrorism straight away. The lives lost and the families torn apart are wounds that will take time to heal. But Israel, like America, did not back down in the face of terror. Today, we honor the memory of the innocents, including Americans who are still held as hostages by Hamas today, and Israel's right to defend herself. I speak to you as an American, proud of our ally and strongest democratic partner in the Middle East. Israel is not alone, and together we will hold Hamas accountable for their atrocities and the loss of innocent human life by standing up against terrorists, holding Iran accountable, and continuing our hard work, both in Congress to protect Israel, our strongest ally, as well as what you're doing right here in Iowa to honor those for freedom of worship, for freedom of community, and for faith in a better life. I salute you each. I thank you for your service.
And we appreciate all that they've done to support Israel in Congress, and other elected officials in Iowa have done their part too. Attorney General Byrd, for example, has assembled a bipartisan anti-Semitism task force. State Treasurer Robbie Smith has invested $50 million in Israeli bonds. And our state legislators have done a lot too in the state legislature, supporting resolutions in support of Israel on a bipartisan basis. So we appreciate all that they've been doing. At our banquet last year, we gathered to celebrate Israel's 75th anniversary of statehood. That was a joyous occasion and a time for celebrating. And unfortunately, tonight we're gathering together under a much different and darker set of circumstances. As I was preparing for this event, it hit me that on October 6th of 2023, it really seemed like there was actually a lot of momentum for peace. The Abraham Accords that had been in place since 2020 were still intact. Israel had normalized diplomatic relations with Bahrain, Morocco, the UAE, and one other state that I cannot remember off the top of my head. But the point is, they had established diplomatic ties, and those states had decided that they would join with Egypt and Jordan in making peace with Israel. And there were rumors that other countries would join them too. There were rumors that Oman and Indonesia, and very significantly, Saudi Arabia would also sign similar agreements with Israel. But that glimmer of promise of peace that loomed on the horizon was snuffed out when dawn broke on October 7th, and Hamas took it hostage, along with 251 other Israelis and people, including 7 Americans. And when they murdered over 1,200 Israelis, which was the largest slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust. And Israel's had challenges since then too. In the last year, they've had over 26,000 rockets fired at them from 6 different fronts. 26,000. 101 hostages remain in captivity. Over 750 Israeli soldiers have been killed defending their country. There have been over 850 civilian casualties. 60,000 people have been displaced from their homes, including citizens of Mate Asher, West Des Moines' sister region in the north of Israel. Our mission statement for Iowans Supporting Israel recognizes Israel as America's most important strategic ally in the Middle East. And it also recognizes Israel's right to exist free from terror and right to defend itself from its enemies. So after October 7th happened, we as a board wanted to know and plan on what we could do to show our support and live out our mission. So the focus of our Lunch and Learns shifted to educating people more about the history of the Jewish people in the Holy Land and the recent history of Israel, especially since World War II, and about Hamas and who they are and what they really believe and who they're funded by, Iran, their chief sponsor, which also supports other terrorist organizations throughout the Middle East. It's really surprising, maybe it's not surprising, but a lot of people don't have that information. They weren't armed with that information when October 7th broke out, so we feel like it's our duty to provide them with that information, and that's what we've been doing with our Lunch and Learns. And we've also been getting out to speak to the media when we've been requested to do interviews. We've spoken to breakfast clubs and other social organizations Tom Henderson, my Democratic co-chair on Iowans Supporting Israel, have done that. And it's something that we appreciate and enjoy because it is an opportunity to talk about our organization, but also about the importance of the Israeli-U.S. relationship. And we like to be there to show a bipartisan front. And third, we also wanted to do something tangible to help support Israel. And we didn't know exactly what that would be until Governor Reynolds reached out to us and asked us to help raise money to send these body armor vests over to Israel, an effort she's going to talk about more, in which many of you helped us with. But finally, we also knew that we wanted to send a message to the Jewish population in Iowa. And that message is simple. We support you. We see the anti-Semitism that's going on throughout the country and on our college campuses. And we know the evil that can happen when people are silent in the face of anti-Semitism. And we vow that that will not happen on our watch. We stand with you. We are side by side with you, and we will support you and have your back until this situation is resolved. And now it's my privilege to introduce Governor Reynolds, who really has been a stalwart supporter of Israel, even before October 7th. She signed countless resolutions and legislation to support Israel, anti-boycott, discrimination, and sanction legislation, anti-Semitism legislation, and she lit the Capitol up in blue lights and ordered flags to be flown at half-staff on the one-year anniversary of October 7th, and countless other things. So let's give a round of applause and please give a warm welcome to Governor Kim Reynolds.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, Charles, for that introduction and for all that you do, for your passion and for your hard work in really delivering the message of where Iowa stands and their efforts to support our Jewish community. You know, it's an honor to join Iowans Supporting Israel for this wonderful annual event, which has never been more important than it is today. A heartfelt thanks to you, to Tom, and your entire team for giving Iowans a way to show our steadfast support for Israel and the Jewish people. As those here tonight will know, Iowans Supporting Israel has been carrying out its invaluable work for over a decade. But over the past year, it's shown its commitment like never before, helping Iowans turn the horror and outrage we felt to the unprovoked terrorist attacks on October 7th into meaningful efforts to help. You know, soon after the attacks, I was visiting with a friend who had a personal and a professional ties to Israel, and we were having a conversation, and you wanted to do whatever we could to help. And so I said, what can we do as Iowans to support Israel? And he told me during that conversation that service members and first responders had a real need for ballistic body armor vests. And my first thought was RMA Armaments, and that is a company in Centerville that manufactures them. So I called the owner, Blake Waldrop, and he is a U.S. Marine, and he is a former law enforcement officer, and I can tell you without hesitation, he eagerly agreed to help and to do whatever he could to make this effort a reality. He really helped with the Department of State to get the license. He helped us ship the vest over to Israel. But the second call, the very next call, was to Iowans Supporting Israel to really ask if they would be a partner in this endeavor, as well as to help us with fundraising efforts. And this organization delivered in a very big way. So thanks to its passion and its dedication, as well as the generosity of Iowans all across our state, we exceeded our goal of $80,000, so we exceeded that, and that doesn't include an equipment donation worth $10,000 that Blake, with RMA's owner, made to the efforts. And as a result, Iowa was able to send 238 vests to Israel and really help save lives on the front lines of this conflict. And I was just so very proud of Iowans' response and really extremely proud of the partnership with Iowans Supporting Israel. So let's give you a big round of applause for all that you did in making this happen. You know, 1 year after the Israeli-Hamas war began, it's still difficult to comprehend the barbaric cruelty that sparked it. This evening, we remember those brutally murdered on October 7th, their families, and all those still held hostage by Hamas, which includes, as you know, American citizens. As shocking as the atrocities were, they represent an occurrence that's all too familiar, not only to the modern state of Israel, but also to Jewish people throughout history. From ancient Egypt to the Holocaust, anti-Semitism and hatred of the Jewish faith is the world's oldest and deadliest prejudice. The events of October 7th, as well as the resurgence of anti-Semitism across the U.S., and especially on college campuses, are a chilling reminder that it remains a powerful force of evil in our own day. And yet, the past year has also shown that it will never have the final word. By fighting for their survival in a sea of enemies and relentlessly pursuing the return of the hostages, the people of Israel are upholding the humane, democratic values on which their nation and ours was founded. Their courage and resolve have inspired Iowans and all people of goodwill throughout the world. We're here tonight, Jewish and non-Jewish alike, to stand once again in solidarity with Israel and its struggle against Hamas, Hezbollah, and other Iranian proxies, to remember the lives lost and hostages taken on October 7th, to pray for their families and loved ones, and to redouble our commitment to condemning anti-Semitism wherever it is found. For Iowa, this commitment is more than mere words. In recent years, we've worked together to restore the Holocaust Memorial on the grounds of the state capitol. We've strengthened the categorical rejection of anti-Semitism in state code. And we've enacted legislation to prevent state funds from supporting businesses that indulge the radical BDS movement. In Iowa, the pain of the victims will never be forgotten, nor their cause abandoned. So may God console their families, bring victory to their country, and bless the Jewish people all over the world. God bless you, and let us never forget. Thank you.
And now it's my honor and privilege to introduce our featured speaker, Consul General of Israel to the Midwest, Yinam Cohen. This is actually the third time he's graced us with his presence here at this event, and we're happy to have him back. He's a career diplomat with 19 years of experience in the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Before arriving at his post in Chicago, he served as senior policy advisor to Israel's foreign minister. And before that, he served as director of the UN Political Affairs Department. His previous missions include assignments to Spain, Germany, and Colombia. Prior to his diplomatic career, he worked as a strategic consultant in the business sector. He also is fluent in 4 languages: English, Hebrew, Spanish, and German. Please join me in welcoming back Consul General Yinam Cohen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so good to be back in Des Moines, and so good to be again with Iowans Supporting Israel. Dear friends, distinguished guests, and elected officials, it is an honor to stand before you today. Your presence here reaffirms the deep connection between Iowa and Israel, one rooted in shared values and mutual support. In these challenging times, the bonds between us have become even more vital, serving as a beacon of hope as we confront unprecedented challenges. On October 7, 2023, Israel experienced one of the darkest days in our history. In a brutal and coordinated attack, Hamas terrorists infiltrated our communities, murdering 1,200 people, a number equivalent to 40,000 Americans, in the most barbaric ways, sexually assaulting women and children, and taking over 250 hostages, among them American citizens. The scale of this atrocity was devastating, leaving families and entire communities shattered, and our nation deeply wounded. Even today, 101 of our loved ones, among them 7 American citizens, remain captive in Gaza, and we are working tirelessly to secure their release. Time is running out for our hostages, and I ask you to keep them in your prayers and raise awareness of their plight. The day after the Hamas attack, Hezbollah escalated tensions along Israel's northern border with Lebanon. They initiated an unprovoked war against Israel, launching more than 10,000 missiles at our northern communities over the past year, causing immense casualties and severe damage to our beautiful Galilee, a region rich of significance to both Jewish and Christian traditions. As our forces now operate in southern Lebanon against Hezbollah strongholds, they have uncovered an extensive infrastructure designed for a coordinated invasion of northern Israeli communities. The plan aimed to kill civilians and take hostages, mirroring the brutal attack carried out by Hamas on October 7th, only on an even larger scale. What we face today is not just a local skirmish. It is part of a broader regional struggle orchestrated by Iran, a nation with ambitions to destabilize the Middle East and undermine US and Israeli interests alike. Iran's goal is clear: to weaken Israel and expel American influence from the region. All that while they continue to build their nuclear capabilities to become a nuclear power. Iran has perfected the use of proxy forces to advance its agenda, while mostly avoiding direct confrontation. This network of proxies, what Tehran calls the axis of resistance, operates on multiple fronts to sow chaos across the Middle East. Each group serves a distinct role in Iran's strategy, and together they create a web of instability that affects both Israel's security, the moderate Arab countries in the region, and the American presence in the Middle East. Let's take a deeper look. In the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, Hamas received the funding, technology, and training from Iran that were needed to carry out the October 7th massacre. This support enables the group to not only threaten Israel's civilians, but also hold American citizens hostage, turning them into bargaining chips in a wider geopolitical game. In Lebanon, thanks to decades-long Iranian efforts, Hezbollah has transformed into a powerful military organization with a vast stockpile of advanced missiles. Pre-October 7th, the Hezbollah missile arsenal was larger than those of France, and the UK combined. The recent Israeli operations in Lebanon did not only eliminate Hezbollah's terror leadership, but also a large part of their missiles. And yet, the road ahead of us is still very long. In Yemen, Iranian arms and technology helped the Houthi rebels not only launch ballistic missiles at Israel, but also disrupt maritime trade routes by attacking commercial ships in the Red Sea. These actions directly threaten U.S. and Western naval presence, forcing the United States to intervene and secure shipping lanes vital for global trade. The Houthis demonstrate how Iran uses peripheral conflicts to challenge American interests on global stage. Iran's strategy relies heavily on waging war through its proxies, using groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Shiite militias in Syria and Iraq to destabilize Israel and the region and undermine U.S. influence in the Middle East, all while maintaining plausible deniability. However, make no mistake, each rocket launched by these groups bears an unmistakable imprint of Iranian ambition. Just recently, following Israel's elimination of key terrorist leaders from Hezbollah and Hamas, Iran escalated its aggression. Just earlier this month, it directly attacked Israel by launching nearly 200 ballistic missiles. Fortunately, our advanced missile defense systems, bolstered by U.S. partnership, minimized the damage. Yet, this attack marks a dangerous escalation. Our response just last Friday was decisive, sending a clear message to the regime in Tehran. You have crossed yet another red line, and there are significant consequences for your actions. And I want to add to that, this really unprecedented response of Israel in Iran last Friday night was really special on two ways. First, it is the first time that Israeli or Israeli-American F-35 flight jet flew in Iranian airspace for a couple of hours. And the second fun fact I would say that we're very proud of is that 4 of the pilots who took part in this mission were female pilots. One of them from Chicago, by the way, who just recently moved to Israel. In these unprecedented times, the U.S.-Israel strategic alliance has never been more critical. In the aftermath of October 7th, the American administration acted swiftly, deploying military forces in the region to deter further aggressions from Iranian proxies. The U.S. Congress has secured the necessary resources to deepen our partnership, ensuring Israel can defend itself while America protects its vital interests in the region. And at this point, I want to recognize the leadership of our friend, Congressman Zach Nan, whose leadership was vital in the past year on 2 aspects. First, securing the further deepening of the military and defense partnership between the United States and Israel. And secondly, by working very hard to block the access of the Iranian mullah regime to their financial resources that would allow them continue their malign activity in the region. So thank you so much for your leadership on that, Congressman Nunn. Thank you. But the special bond between our countries goes far beyond the strategic and military collaboration. It is, first and foremost, a partnership between our peoples, built on shared heritage and the common values of freedom and democracy. The solidarity shown by Americans in the past year, including many of you here in Iowa, has been truly heartwarming. Citizens and elected officials from across the state have stood firmly with Israel in moments when we needed you the most. Your statements, resolutions, and public displays of support reminded us that we're not alone. I would like to specifically acknowledge Governor Reynolds for her unwavering commitment to the U.S.-Israel and the Iowa-Israel partnership. Governor, just a few months before October 7th, I had the honor of accompanying you to your visit in Israel, where you met with Prime Minister Netanyahu, President Herzog. You advanced our business partnership and celebrated our shared heritage at the holy sites in Jerusalem. Your continued support since October 7th is yet just another testament to the fact that Israel and the Jewish people have a true friend in the Hawkeye State. We cannot be more grateful for that. Thank you. Next month, we will continue building our future together as a new mission of Israeli technology companies arrives in Des Moines to further deepen our business partnership. While we are engaged in battles abroad, we must also confront the alarming rise of anti-Semitism here in the United States, where incidents have surged to unprecedented levels over the past year. The events of October 7th have intensified this trend, with extremist rhetoric spreading from both the far right and far left. College campuses and social media platforms have become breeding grounds for anti-Israel and anti-Jewish activism. We must stand united against this wave of hatred, ensuring that Jewish communities feel safe and supported wherever they are. Despite the immense challenges we face, I remain hopeful. The spirit of unity and resilience displayed by Israelis and their supporters around the world is a powerful reminder that we are stronger together. The support we have received from communities like yours here in Iowa inspires us to keep moving forward, knowing that light will overcome darkness. As we continue to fight for the return of our hostages and rebuild our communities, we draw strength from the unwavering support of our friends in the United States. Together, we will overcome these challenges and build a future for our country and our region. A very special thank you to Iowans Supporting Israel for organizing this uplifting gathering and for standing with Israel during these difficult times. Your solidarity means more than words could ever express. May we continue to stand together today and always. Shalom and thank you.
Council General, before the dinner, we asked people to write out some questions for you, and we've just got 4 that we would want to ask you, if that's possible. We've all had a chance to see lots of film footage of Gaza and the impact of the war on Gaza, but could you please share with us the impact that it's had on Israel, too? The families, the people in the street, maybe even your family, the war as it's progressed?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you for this. And again, thank you for everything that you do for the State of Israel and for the Iowa-Israel partnership. Thank you. You know, Israel is a very small country. We're less than 10 million people on a territory that is as big as the state of New Jersey. That's very small. And it happens to be the case that basically everybody knows everybody in Israel. So I would say that a year after October 7th, every civilian in Israel is somehow affected. Whether those who lost family on October 7th or in the war that followed, those who had to leave their communities, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands, at least 200 of thousands of Israelis who had to leave their homes, their communities in the south that has been destructed by Hamas, or in the north that have been destructed by the ongoing missiles of Hezbollah. We're talking about a very significant mental health issue right now in Israel because of the stress, the pressure of the past year. So I would say that the whole country is affected. But at the same time, I would say that what we've seen during the past year is really the spirit of Israel is really shown bright during this past year. Israeli resilience and the Jewish value of arvut hadadit, the mutual responsibility to one another. Israelis have opened their homes for those who had to leave their homes. Many Israelis, even older people than I am, in their 50s and 60s, volunteered to go to military service to defend their country. People left their jobs volunteering to support the evacuees, those who needed food, medical support, and so on. So I think the silver lining during the past year is to know that even though we failed, and I have to say we failed on October 7th, the spirit of our nation is very strong and very resilient. And that is what makes me very hopeful about our future.
One of the common themes of the questions that we got was from people who were obviously very concerned about Israel and the Israeli people. And a lot of the questions mentioned that they're keeping the hostages and all Israelis in their prayers. And I know that we as an organization are doing that as well. But people also want to know what they can do tangibly to help right now beyond that. Are there things that we could be doing here in Iowa that would be supportive of your mission in Israel?
Oh, absolutely, yes. First, I have to, again, to show that this is an amazing example. Thank you to everyone in Iowa, Governor, Iowans Supporting Israel, and everybody else that's been involved in really helping defend our soldiers on the most difficult moment after October 7th. I think the most important thing is first to raise awareness. We've been exposed to so much fake news about Israel, and I'm not saying that Israel is perfect. No country is flawless. No country is flawless. But the amount of fake news that we have faced, the amount of hate that you have seen on university campuses, in social media, in the streets, it is frightening. So I think that first we have to, and each one can do that, raise awareness. Speak to your elected officials. Speak out in social media. It is a very important arena. We need to keep the truth alive. This is the first mission. Secondly, I know that it's a bit difficult now, but I think that you should all think of your next trip to Israel. It's not just that would support our economy that is not in great shape right now. We'll get back to our best self in a few months, hopefully. So it's not only about supporting our economy, but it's more than anything shows solidarity. Because one thing that really hurts Israelis, and I hear it all the time speaking to my friends, my family members, is a perception that they're alone, that nobody understands where Israel stands, nobody understands the atrocities we had undergone, and that countries hold Israel accountable for just defending ourselves. In your future presence in Israel will send a different message, a message of friendship, of solidarity, and I know that at this moment this is what we need most in our country.
Consul General, could you update us on the efforts to bring about a ceasefire? Is there something that Israel is proposing that they think would be a just resolution to this current dispute?
Absolutely. You know what? It's not just Israel. It's the United States have put a plan that would bring about two major things. First, the full release of the hostages, and secondly, an extended ceasefire. This is not just an American proposal. It is an Arab-American proposal because it was endorsed by some of the most important Arab countries, Egypt, Qatar, and others. But not only that, it was endorsed by the Security Council of the United Nations. Basically, it is a globally endorsed resolution that was rejected time after time after time by one element, and that is Hamas. Now, as those of you who follow the news from Israel probably know that there has been some changes in Hamas leadership in the past weeks as we were able to eliminate the head of the snake in Gaza. Yes. Yahya Sinawar and his partner Muhammad Def, who are responsible for not only the death of so many Israelis and the abduction of so many Israelis, but also for the death of dozens of American citizens and taking captive of American citizens. They're not there now, and my hope is that the new leadership of Hamas would understand that repeatedly saying no is not an option for them. Now, right now, as we speak, there are negotiations that are going on in Qatar with the Qataris, the Egyptians, and the Americans, of course, with the aim of achieving a small deal, a very small deal, of the release of a few living hostages, because we know that, unfortunately, many of the hostages have perished, but many of them are still alive, and we want them back, both those who perished and the living hostages. We need them back home as soon as possible. So the deal deals with the release of just a handful of them in return for a few days of ceasefire. And if we're able to achieve that, and there is still a big if over this deal because of Hamas has not agreed to that, that time might allow us to also negotiate the greater deal that would allow the release of the rest of the hostages. Unfortunately, there is one uncertainty that's been there for the past months, and that is Hamas. And since this is a terrorist organization whose rationale is very different from ours, it is really hard to predict what they would say or do.
Okay, on a different note, this is a question that is our last question, and it's a pro-business question, and it was only fair the Democrats should ask it, we felt. One of the things that we've had in our first 10 years of existence was a great relationship with Israel in trying to talk about the relationship between Iowa and Israel, and the types of positive benefits that come from our communication with you. Could you give us some examples, if possible, of some technological exchanges or agricultural exchanges that have occurred between our two great states?
Absolutely. You know, I mentioned the visit of the governor a year and a half ago in Israel. It was an amazing opportunity. The governor was the keynote speaker at a very big and impressive business conference with really some of the top leaders of the Israeli innovation sector in Israel. And I have to say, you will have to work hard. This is my experience as a Consul General to the Midwest. Even I'm based in Chicago. To even sell Chicago to Israelis is a hard work because Israelis don't know much. They know New York, Florida, the Silicon Valley, and maybe Texas now. And we have a hard work convincing them that the Midwest is a huge opportunity for Israeli business, and specifically Iowa is a great opportunity for Israeli business. I think that, you know, regarding Iowa, we've made some progress. We had multiple Israeli missions, technology missions, definitely from the fintech, the financial technology and the insurance technology sector coming to Iowa. The next mission, as I mentioned, is coming next month, and there is a great opportunity there. But I also want to think about the more, I would say, traditional sectors. Iowa is a great agricultural state, and Israel is too. However, unlike Iowa, or maybe like Iowa in some cases, we don't have the natural resources to support our agricultural sector, industry, and this is why we had to come up with, I think, some very interesting inventions in agricultural technologies to really use the very small amount of money, of water that we have, to using drone technology, for example, for much more precise analysis of our fields and where we need to irrigate more and where we do irrigate less. And I think that this is a technology that is very relevant to Iowa, and I see a lot of potential in our agricultural industries too. So this is something we're trying to push to. And I want to acknowledge my colleague Ethan Raymer, who is, among many other things, is also now responsible for our commercial portfolio at the consulate, and he does an amazing job. So thank you, Ethan, for that.
Well, thank you very much, Consul General, for coming, and we certainly will keep you and all Israelis in our thoughts and in our prayers, and we'll continue to do what we can to spread the message of the importance of U.S. and Iowa support for Israel. Tom will talk later about how we're trying to build our organization statewide, and we're doing events outside of the Des Moines metro area now. But please know, you're in our thoughts, you're in our prayers, and you have a very strong ally in Iowa.
Consul General, please don't go away yet. Because you came to Iowa, we want you to go home with a piece of Iowa, and I'd like Loretta Seaman to come up, if she would, please.
I have a story to tell you, Iowans. My grandson lives in LA. He is 14 years old, and their class was discussing the world. And Israel came up. And so they were trying to decide what they could do for you and for Israel. And his father, of course, being the bright young man he is, said, call your grandma. So Finnegan Seaman called me and said, Nana, what do we want to do? We want to help. We're in California. We know Iowa cares, but we're not sure what California cares about. So we want to make a decision. So I said, well, find out from your teacher, do you have a Jewish friend? He said, oh, yeah. He says, my buddy, it's Henry. And I said, oh, I've met Henry. He's adorable, by the way, in case you wonder. And I said, well, why don't you talk to Henry and his family and see if they have somebody over there, and you could start some letter writing. And you could learn about what they're doing as 14-year-olds in Israel, and pretty soon you could be a partner like we are. And he said, that is a great job. Maybe I could go to Israel. I said, that's your dad's responsibility. As far as I'm concerned, if I could, and I know everybody in this room feels the same way I do, I would pray that tomorrow morning I will wake up and it's done. I would pray that we'd go back to being good people. You're looking at an Italian Catholic that was raised by two laborers who taught me that if you wanted to be loved, you had to love back, and you had to care. And so it makes no difference what your religion is, what your heritage is, we're all the same. We all should care about each other, and that's something I've learned in Iowa. And that's something I've heard from our governor tonight, from you and from others. So what I would say to you, and this little gift I gave you is Iowa. It's for your children and your family as well. I would say to you, everyone in this room, if you walk out tonight and you find one more person, and if you have a friend or a relative in another state, call them. Let them know what's going on, because we need to go back to being the good people that we know we can be. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming tonight, because this is good for him to know that we truly do care. And I wish you a safe trip home. Thank you very much for being here, and please remember that we need to care about each other, or we'll never succeed in anything we do. Thank you. You'll all appreciate it. Rag cups in case they decide to go right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What's in
sweetheart.
here?
Oh, all kinds of stuff.
Good.
Your wife and kids will love it, and there's a couple things for you, but it's basically for the family. And there's a fair book in here. I'm giving a bit of Iowa to him. Last time I gave, I can't remember, mostly to the kids. But this time you actually have something. But this is our ride across the state. So when you're drinking that, you can think of us riding in the heat of the summer across our entire state. You should come during the summer. Would we like to have him come for Ragbri? Ragbri. Thank you.
All right, we're going to finish up the evening now. The first thing I'd like to do is to thank the individuals who volunteered tonight. They're all part of a group that Tamara Harrison has put together. They either can't or they won't ever turn her down. Could I ask the volunteers to please stand up and just take a nice round of applause for your work? As you know, we're just 8 days away from an election, and as I look around the room, I realize that many of you are on the ballot or are actively supporting candidates, and I know this has been a hard-fought election, but I would like us all to acknowledge that here in this room on this night, we're all just Iowans supporting Israel, and that's kind of a nice place to be. My association with the Iowans Supporting Israel has been so wonderful because I've had a chance to work in a bipartisan way with so many Republicans who have become my friends, including Charles Snyder, whose friendship I very much value, and members of the board. It's given me a chance to realize that we are more than just partisan players in a game every year. We are actually people who actually have things for each other that we agree upon, and it's been wonderful that way. We want to take Iowans Supporting Israel statewide. We've told you that before, and we've taken many steps to do that. We've had Charles help to sponsor an event in Sioux City this last year. We're working closely with individuals who support Israel in Davenport. If you want to join us, we would love to have your time, talent, and funds if you've got it. We certainly are a nonprofit organization. You can deduct your donations to Iowans Supporting Israel. And if you give us those funds, we promise we'll be good marshals of them to make sure that we take care of them and help to expand our support for Israel on a statewide basis, both in peacetime and in war. We'd also like to remind you that we will be renewing our monthly events, which are so valuable because we have contact with people from Israel who have knowledge about the state of Israel, and we've learned so much from them. Our next event will be December 8th. Look for announcements on that. We're going to try to work towards that as being an event. If you have any inclination to join our group in a fuller way, just let us know because we'll always put you to work. Again, thank you so very much for coming to the banquet tonight, for being a part of our organization, and we'll look forward to spending more time with you in the future.